Yep, it's me again. They hate me, that's why they give a fuck about me at the same time. As always, JD Miles, the MGTOWs they love to hate. Even the ones that claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOW at the same time as always, which is why they keep us relevant to this day, and I'm back again. Okay. This is regarding the Manosphere, the Homeland Security versus the Manosphere bit, in which y'all see the title. However, it seemed like the U.S. Senate just halted DHS's plans to dismantle the Manosphere, and we're going to get down to the reason why. But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this Twitter X post. This Twitter X tweet. My bad. Massive. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security paid nearly $700,000 to a counterterrorism NGO to intercept and divert Twitter X traffic away from specific individuals in the Manosphere, which consists of the Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi, Cobra Tate or Andrew Tate, and Fresh and Fit, among others, were specifically named as targets. The DHS TVTP grant funding was given to Arizona State University, home of the McCain Institute. The purpose of the grant was to design a native tool to be used on Twitter to effectively suppress individuals in the Manosphere by diverting their audiences away from their content towards countermeasuring content, websites, podcasts, and creators curated by the McCain Institute to counter hate speech and misinformation. Okay, but they still have yet to explain what is hate speech and what is misinformation. The U.S. government has named the Manosphere as one of the biggest terror threats facing the U.S. They claim this board network is the main cause of extremely isolated acts of incel-related violence. Okay, I'm going to be pointing out the flaws in the DHS's claims here. The first flaw in particular is that they're not looking at incels as a group of their own, but rather they trying to force incels into other groups, in which of course that's the same stunt that they tried before last year, and it fell flat on its back. Why? Because incels are in their own group. They tried it with MGTOW, it failed. They tried it with the red pill, it failed. Especially when the incels are referred to as black pill. And no, you can't mix the colors. Ain't no such thing as a red-black pill. Sorry, not sorry. It ain't gonna happen. Now they're trying to insert incel in the Manosphere, in which once again they put in two things in a boat that don't get along. Or as my late grandma would say, you're trying to mix oil and water together. It don't mix. But I digress. Let's continue on reading. The conflation of incels with the broader Manosphere as a justification for targeted counterterrorism ops. And it's funny they keep talking about terrorism, but yet what is it that makes the Manosphere so terroristic? What are they doing? They bombing, or are they doing these type of things? And keep in mind, the Manosphere consists of different groups. So basically, when they say Manosphere is terroristic, what they're saying is all the groups of the Manosphere is terroristic, even though there is no substantial evidence to prove that to be a fact. But let's continue. Which can include aggressive surveillance and censorship, is part of a disturbing trend the ever broadening definitions of terrorism and extremism put forth by the U.S. government poses a very real threat to the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. Even worse, the grant application and resulting reports suggest a large scale of collaboration of tech giants, NGOs, and U.S. government agencies to design and implement tools to counter hate and disinformation by diverting web traffic away from specific individuals and communities deemed harmful. What is harmful content? What is harmful content? According to the U.S. government, white supremacy, anti-government views, foreign terrorist acts, i.e. ISIS, and the Manosphere are the top four terror threats according to the McCain Institute. But yet, their claims is all out of whack. Plus, plus DHS is still trying to use Reddit as the be-all, end-all. They believe that Reddit is the voice on all social media platforms, which is false. Oh, and by the way, I actually, after I read this article, which I read last Saturday, I decided to follow these individuals that they're targeting, and surprise, surprise, their videos, podcasts, all that is not being diverted at all. In fact, you could type in their name and they still show up. Even more baffling to me that they trying to do this on Twitter X, in which, as I recall, the same Twitter X, which the owner Elon Musk is fighting against censorship. And second, the same Twitter X who just unbanned Alex Jones. So they trying to put censorship on a social media platform that is anti-censorship. Okay, got it. Now, of course, you got all these fools out here cheering and celebrating DHS and what they're trying to do. However, I hate to rain on people's parades. But I think I need to show them something that all these fools who are celebrating what DHS trying to do is happening right now. Now, I'm going to leave links in the description. I'm going to leave links in the comment section for everybody to see this, because the video is just way too long for me to cover. But as I said, well, for those of y'all celebrating and cheering DHS on to dismantling the Manosphere, I'm afraid I have some bad news right here. House Homeland Security Committee hearing on permitting DHS's silencing. Well, basically, the Senate has just halted DHS's plans on using a third-party source like the McCain Institute to try to censor and dismantle the Manosphere. What is also known as, here's something I also found out. The Senate is holding DHS accountable on the grounds of, and I quote, censorship laundering. Look it up. Better yet, hey AI, what is censorship laundering?
Censorship laundering refers to the practice of using third-party entities or organizations to carry out censorship on behalf of a government or other controlling authority. This can involve outsourcing censorship responsibilities to private companies, non-governmental organizations, or other entities in order to distance the government from direct involvement in the censorship process. The term, censorship laundering, is often used to highlight the indirect and covert nature of censorship practices, as well as the potential for abuse of power and suppression of free expression.
What are some examples of censorship laundering?
Some examples of censorship laundering include 1. Government outsourcing censorship to private companies. Governments may contract with private companies to monitor and censor online content, thereby distancing themselves from direct involvement in the censorship process. 2. Using non-governmental organizations (NGOs) to carry out censorship. Governments may support or fund NGOs to carry out censorship activities, allowing them to maintain plausible deniability and avoid direct responsibility for the censorship. 3. Pressuring social media platforms to censor content. Governments may pressure social media companies to remove or restrict access to certain content, effectively using these platforms as intermediaries to carry out censorship on their behalf. 4. Using legal or regulatory mechanisms to compel censorship. Governments may enact laws or regulations that require internet service providers, website operators, or other intermediaries to censor content, effectively outsourcing the censorship to these entities. These examples illustrate how censorship laundering can involve various tactics and intermediaries to obscure the direct involvement of governments or controlling authorities in the censorship process.
And for those of y'all who don't know, censorship laundering is considered unconstitutional. Well, the government is using a third-party source to push their censorship while the government is using a third-party source like the McCain Institute to try to push censorship while pretending like they have no involvement. However, the Senate ended up finding out about it, and as a result, the DHS's plans to censor and dismantle the Manosphere just got halted by the Senate. Fellas, this is what I've been saying for years. Know the laws. And make sure by reading and understanding and knowing the laws, you don't get screwed over in the end. So by DHS trying to use the McCain Institute to censor people on Twitter, they just committed an unconstitutional act. Don't believe me? Don't worry. The link will be in the comment section so you can so y'all can hear for yourselves. This explains why when I go to Twitter X and look up these people that they're targeting, their messages are not being diverted. Or none of that shit is happening. And yeah, I know this is a devastating blow. This is a devastating blow to the anti-Manosphere types out there. This is the reason why dismantling the Manosphere will not be an easy task. And keep in mind, the Manosphere is not just one group. The Manosphere consists of different groups. And in order for them to execute all groups of the Manosphere has the same thought process, which of course, no, we don't. And to prove my point, you have some parts of the Manosphere that don't like other parts in the Manosphere. And which of course, that don't make sense to me. Yeah, we may think differently, but guess what? We all part of the Manosphere. Some would even go as far as to try to kick other groups out of the Manosphere, thinking that they don't belong. And who are they to do that shit? And while the Manosphere is fighting amongst themselves, this shit is happening. And when I see this shit, all I could think is divide and conquer. And when I think of divide and conquer, all I could think of is 2016, 2017 all over again. And for those of y'all who wasn't around at that time, during 2016, 2017, you had the swirlers doing anything and everything they can to get rid of Black male content creators. And of course, these Black male content creators wasn't helping one bit, sitting there trying to divide themselves even further. And they kept on dividing themselves to the point to where when those swirlers came after them, they almost got rid of all of them off YouTube and social media until it all came crashing down. And as far as I see a repeat. You got the Manosphere dividing everyone up that don't agree with their views and opinions. And while that's happening, you have DHS, the FBI, and other federal government agencies trying to come in and trying to destroy the Manosphere. Damn, deja vu all over again. Straight up divide and conquer. And while they're dividing, guess who's coming in? Guess who's coming in to take advantage? Come on, wise up. Wise up. We're all in this together. It's time for the Manosphere to put aside their goddamn differences and see the actual problems staring at them in their faces. Now with the Senate halting DHS's plans on trying to censor members of the Manosphere on Twitter X, now's the time for y'all to tighten shit up and get the shit together. Because they're not going to stop. Homeland Security is like the Terminator. And I could go ahead and tell you this shit too. They can't be bargained with. They can't be reasoned with. They ain't going to show pity, nor remorse, nor fear. And they absolutely will not stop ever until the Manosphere is gone. Word is born on that. But nevertheless, I said what I had to say. I'm done. The link to the committee will be in the comment section of this video. I said what I had to say. I'm done, and I'm out this bitch. Later.